When you're ready to build out a job schedule, just head to the Schedule tab within that job, and currently we are viewing the Gantt chart for that schedule. Now you can switch views by clicking on this drop-down, and you can see your schedule by list, month, week, or day, which are especially helpful if you're scheduling by hour. Now we'll start by adding a group, and this is like a task group, so you can determine how you want to set up your task groups. In many cases, people will use the groups to identify different phases of the job. So we'll click plus group. I'm going to create a pre-construction phase. And then as soon as I hit enter, I'm ready to now start adding tasks for this phase. So I may do design and planning as a task. I may add sample approval. And this is really easy to just kind of brainstorm all of your tasks. Just hit the enter key, and then you can move on to the next one. So bids and contracts. We have contract execution. Maybe we need to collect the deposit and then maybe obtain the permits. Great. So now we have several tasks within this pre-construction task group, and now we can add details to those tasks. Notice that this blue bar does pop up anytime that you make changes to your schedule, allowing you to undo what you just did. You can also redo. You can also discard changes, and that will discard all the changes back to the most recent time that you saved your changes, or you can go ahead and save the changes. You also have the ability to notify anyone assigned to the tasks that maybe you made a change on. Currently, we don't have anyone assigned to these tasks, so we don't really need to notify anyone. And anytime that you choose your preference here, it will remember that preference next time that you're saving. So you always have that option. We'll go ahead and hit Save Changes. Perfect. Now when you're adding task details, you can just click on a task and it will open up the task details drawer. This is where you can start entering in all of the details about this particular task. So you can add a description here. You can also assign a task type. And so we have some task types already baked into the system for you. But if you'd like to edit them, adjust them, change the colors, add more task types, you can just scroll to the bottom and click Manage Task Types. This is where you can, again, rename those tasks. You can also click and choose the color for each of the tasks and even create new ones. Now these task types are extremely helpful because you also can filter by task type and create some custom views of your schedule, which we'll go over in a separate video. Here you can add the start date for that particular task. So I can choose, maybe we want to start that on the 23rd, and then you'll see that an end date option pops up as well. So for design and planning, we may want, a couple weeks for that particular task. Perfect. And then as I add those, you'll notice that it adds the dates for that task on the Gantt chart. Let's go ahead and get that task type in here. We'll just do maybe design for that task type now. Awesome. And then you also can choose duration if you'd like to. There is this option to add the baseline. This means that you can set these dates as the goal for this task to be completed. And if you end up moving this task around, you can always reference back to the baseline to see the difference between your original scheduled dates and the updated dates. So I could click on that and it will add these particular dates as my baseline. You can also have the ability to set the baseline for your entire schedule once you build it all out. And so rather than doing it task by task, you do have the ability to do it as a mass action. Now we can also add assignees. So currently I'm going to choose Chris for this. I also can maybe assign myself as well. And then I could also add someone else to this task. Here you'll notice that these availability icons will pop up. So as I'm assigning out tasks, it shows that Chris is available during these dates. However, I'm not quite available. I have other tasks that are happening on these dates, and so does Josh. If I wanted to look further into what other tasks those are, I can just click on that icon, and now it'll show all of the tasks that Josh, in this case, has scheduled on those dates. It also will show the distance from this job site that he's going to be working on the other tasks. So you can make an educated decision to see if, he can handle an additional task. It looks like Josh is pretty booked up, so let's actually unassign him, and let's just leave Chris and myself on this particular task. Now you can also add a checklist. And so the checklist is basically a list of items that need to be completed in order to reach completion of this particular task. So for the design and planning stage, of course, we need to ask the customer for design inspiration. Great. And then let's add some more here. We need to schedule the design meeting. We also need to hold the design meeting, make sure it happens. And then we also need to add design notes and plans to JobTread. Great. If you ever needed to edit these checklist items, you just click on this edit button. You can rearrange them, rename them, or delete any that you need to. If not, if I just clicked on one of these items, it actually checks off that item for me and indicates that there is progress toward completion of this task. All right, let's continue adding some additional details for the other tasks that we have. So I'm going to close this task here, save those changes. Another way that you can also schedule out a task is by actually hovering over the Gantt chart here and then just clicking and dragging for those dates. So here we can do sample approval. We want to maybe give us 3 days for that. And then I can also do that to each of the additional tasks. For bids and contracts, let's give us a few weeks for that one. Contract execution, maybe a few days to get those signatures, and then we want to collect the deposit anytime during the contract execution, but by that last date. And then let's also obtain permits after that point. Great. Now you'll notice that I can click into any of these tasks and then just start adding the task types and additional details. So here a sample approval. This is going to be a design type. Bids and contract execution, those are kind of both contracts or office work. So instead of going into each individual task here, I actually can click and select multiple tasks and assign a task type to both of them at the same time. So I'll go down to my mass actions drawer, select the task type of, I believe we have an office work one. Perfect. Apply the action, and now I just set the task type to both of those. Same thing for collecting deposit and maybe permits as well. Let's go ahead and set those task types. We'll call those office work as well. Great. All right, so now we can save those changes. Now again, we need to assign people to these tasks. So I can click and open up one of these tasks, and maybe I want to assign, let's say, Chris to those tasks. Here you'll also notice a new indicator of his availability. It's yellow. It's kind of a caution indicator. And this is saying that Chris has a task adjacent to this particular task. And so he may or may not be available, or another task, if it runs over, may impact his ability to complete this one. So that looks fine for me. Let's check up on that task. Yep, it's actually this design and planning one, so it looks good. He should be okay to complete the sample approval as well. So we'll just hit save, close that. Perfect. Now you also can use mass actions to assign tasks out. So let's say all of these office work tasks are going to be completed by the same person. So I'll select all of them, and then we're going to go down to assignees and choose the person that will be completing them. So we'll choose Zach in this case, apply the action, and then we'll save those changes. And here you'll notice that Zach is now assigned to all of them. As always, if you have any questions, contact your customer success manager or email support@jobtread.com, and we will be happy to help.